as far as goddamn. Brought to you by PaintballToTheEnd.com. Welcome to 10 Minute Marks, episode 15.
Yay!
Once again, I'm Paul.
And I am not RVD, because if I were RVD, I'd be the TNA World Heavyweight Champion right now. But really, I'm Jeff, so.
Anyways. We've got a TNA episode for you. And just to be fair, it's not a total rant.
No.
This is kind of the good and the bad.
Yep.
We're going to separate them and discuss the direction that TNA is going, and also some of the stuff that we really enjoyed on this past Impact in particular, but some of the not so enjoyable stuff from 2 weeks ago. I'm going to start with Jeff on this one.
Okay. First things first. The Sting heel turn. Is this a good idea, especially when they're not really going anywhere with it?
Yeah.
Other than him just being a heel. There still hasn't been an explanation, which I don't mind going a week or two without an explanation, but we're working on a month now.
Yeah, we are.
And they're still trying to beat an explanation out of the guy. I mean, come on. There's got to be some reason. Okay, it's time to reveal your reason for doing this and to reveal kind of where it's going. And
one thing I want to touch briefly on, because we've got a lot of stuff to cover, Orlando Jordan's new gimmick. He's kind of, I don't know, in real life, he's a bisexual in real life, and I'm pretty sure that's why he's doing it.
Mm-hmm. We have no problem with, by the way.
Well, we have no problem with. I'm a liberal guy. I don't care what people's orientation are. The only concern I have with it is it going to sell? Because I guess I'm a little old school. I don't like a lot of sex in my wrestling.
Right.
I want to be able to take kids to it. So is this the right thing to do?
I think they're taking a really big chance of this, of turning off a lot of viewers on it.
Yeah.
Especially when they bring Orlando Jordan out in the middle of a match and stand him at the top of the ramp, and that's all they do.
Yeah.
You're not doing much for the match in the ring if that's what you're going to do.
And wearing bubble wrap or whatever the hell it was.
Wrap or whatever. You know, it's if you're going to do it, do something with it.
Yeah.
And not just, because that takes away from the match in the ring, and that's not going to make the guys in the ring very happy. Doug Williams dropping the title at Lockdown due to travel restrictions. I love having truth in wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's fine. But this was a real, and this is one of the few times you will see me make an exception to this rule. This was one of the way Doug Williams has been griping about athletes in the X Division and their wrestling style. This would have been a grand opportunity to say, you know what, Doug Williams didn't show up. He dropped the title because he doesn't want to wrestle these guys. And build an angle off of that. They could have had him just drop the title and say, you know what, I don't want to wrestle this style. I don't want this title anymore.
Yep.
And that would have been a more heel thing to do.
Yeah.
That would have built him a little more as a heel, and they could have gone off with that. They could have made the X Division go off in one direction and his character go off in another.
Yep.
And to me, that's what I would have done. I mean, I like having truth in wrestling and saying, hey, he couldn't get here. That's fine. But that's the one time I think you try and make an exception because it makes sense. It blends with what you've been doing with it. Yeah. And I like the fact that he's been going around going, these guys aren't wrestling, they're just flying around. That's great.
Yeah.
I don't mind that at all. But didn't just have him drop the title due to travel restrictions? I think you just missed out on an opportunity there.
One of the things I wanted to gripe a little bit about was, well, it's a gripe and a compliment too. The AJ Styles match with Pope at Lockdown was terrific. However, and I like the whole pin in the eye thing. It was a little bit different.
Yep.
Instead of brass knucks or anything like that.
Right.
My only complaint is they haven't explained his absence from Impact. And we've said it on this show before. Where's the Pope?
Right. We love the Pope.
We think he's great. And even if we didn't think he was great, it's still wrong to, not explain his absence from it. They could have said, oh, he's injured with his eye. I've been like, I'll buy that.
All right. Just mention it in passing. Go, while AJ's up making his way to the ring at the beginning of the show, say, hey, they had a great match. AJ poked him in the eye. Pope may be out for 2 or 3 weeks. That's fine.
Yeah.
But to leave him totally off the show the next night after he's on a main event, there's just something wrong with that.
It's like you're turning him into an afterthought.
Exactly. And that doesn't, we'd say the same thing if it was the other way around. If it was AJ, we'd say the same thing. Where's AJ? Why didn't they explain where AJ is? The rubber match. Angle and Anderson have had a great feud. Mm-hmm. But they messed it up.
Yeah, they did.
The week before lockdown, they had this big match. They had this big promo saying we're tied 1-1. We're going to have a rubber match at lockdown. That's great. But then that same night, they book another match to see who wins the key to the lock. Really?
Yeah.
Your rubber match at lockdown just went straight out the window. It went straight to hell.
You trumped it big time.
You just made a third match that same night, and now your match at lockdown is a fourth match. And now they've just come out of lockdown and they're tied.
Yeah.
Okay, your rubber match just went straight out the window. And I don't know how they could have missed that. Seriously.
I know, especially with Bischoff there.
Exactly.
And Hogan.
How could they miss that? It just makes no sense.
Is there too much emphasis on Hogan and Flair? Especially on the week before lockdown, they had a lot of Hogan and Flair stuff going on, and they barely touched the surface on the feud between AJ and the Pope.
Yeah, which they've done in the past. I mean, I know there's a lot of people involved in the Team Hogan versus Team Flair thing, but there were just way too many beatdowns during that whole show. You had like 3 or 4 beatdowns in one show. If you could have spread it out a little bit, okay, that would have been a little better.
Yeah.
But you didn't have hardly anything for the AJ and the Pope rivalry because of all the emphasis on the knockouts and the emphasis on Team Hogan and Team Flair. You left them a few minutes at the end of the show to have a crap match, and they took out Jay Lethal for whatever reason, and then they just made it a one-on-one match in which, surprise, Ric Flair comes out of his chair. Oh, I never saw that coming! Oh my gosh, you mean Ric Flair wasn't really injured? And he beats up Pope with a belt? I never saw that! Yeah.
Anyway.
Now we move on to lockdown. Anderson Angle was really good. Mm-hmm. The AJ Styles Pope match was really good. They had the tag match with the band and Team 3D.
Yep.
Which was decent. They had an X Division match which had a couple good spots in it. So it was a really good match, or a really good pay-per-view.
Yep.
And it's something that they need to do more consistently, especially with WWE doing nothing but rematches for Extreme Rules. I mean, and we'll have our WWE review a lot like this next week or the week after Extreme Rules. We want to catch that, and then we'll do our review like we're doing now.
Yep.
And then we move on to the Impact after lockdown.
Yes, and actually, I don't have a whole lot of criticism for it, and we've already covered a little bit, but overall, I actually sort of enjoyed it. And I know it's a little unfair because Raw kind of had their people are stuck overseas because of the Iceland disaster, volcano. But TNA, they still did a pretty good show. I like the fact they brought Samoa Joe back, and they left the abduction brief.
Yeah,
I was like, how are you going to explain it?
Right. We're hoping they completely do away with the abduction angle altogether and just kind of shuffle it off to the back,
Back to the depths of hell where the Katie Vick angle.
Right.
But I actually like the fact that RVD won the title, and actually he had 2 matches that night because he beat Jeff Hardy first, and then he beat AJ Styles after that, which I thought was okay. Like normally I like build up, as much as the next guy,
right.
But they put RVD huge over. They put him over at the lockdown pay-per-view. And then, of course, they put him over huge this night because he had 2 matches. And they were decent. They weren't like 5-minute squashes. They were, I think it was a good 15 minutes with Jeff Hardy and a good 10 to 15, probably 10 with Pope. A good 10 with AJ Styles. So I liked it. And I think they put RVD as the face of TNA, and I think that's really the right thing to do because I remember when the rumors were coming out, I was like, if they bring RVD, I want him to face AJ Styles or Samoa Joe.
Oh, yeah.
And
they've got a feud. And Jeff Hardy versus AJ Styles will be a good feud as well. Even though they're both about as bad on the mic together, but they'll have some good matches, and that's what really counts.
Yeah. So overall, TNA was pretty decent. I hope they keep up the good work. Be sure to catch the next episode because we're going to do a WWE review following Extreme Rules. And on that note, I do believe that we are done!
Now as far... Let's do this one. I'm not scratching my back. No, we're done. You can stop.
Oh, that's what the done, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually.
Oh, cool. Do you guys have to put on makeup before you do this?
No.
Good.